Welcome to the channel NUMIS Treasure Hub. And before you scroll past this video thinking it's just another coin collecting segment, I want you to stop and really think for a moment about the spare change sitting in your pocket, your car's cup holder, your kitchen counter, maybe even that dusty jar you haven't touched in years. Because what I'm about to share with you today could absolutely change the way you look at every single penny you ever handle again. And I mean that in the most literal, life-altering way possible. We are talking about a coin that looks so ordinary, so completely unremarkable, that millions of people have already thrown it away, spent it on gum, tossed it into a wishing fountain, and walked away from what could have been the most valuable thing they ever held in their hands. And that coin is the 1999 D Lincoln penny, a coin that on its surface appears to be nothing more than a standard 1-cent piece produced at the Denver Mint during a year most of us remember for Y2K panic and pop music. But hidden within certain specimens of this coin is an error so dramatic, so visually stunning, and so desperately sought by serious numismatists that collectors have paid as much as $15 million to own one. Yes, you read that correctly, $15 million for a single penny. And the extraordinary thing is that this coin was made from the same copper-plated zinc blanks as every other Lincoln cent of its era, struck at the same Denver facility. And yet something went magnificently wrong during the minting process that transformed select pieces into numismatic treasures of almost incomprehensible value. And I want to walk you through exactly what happened, exactly what to look for, and exactly why this particular error has sent the entire collector community into an absolute frenzy that shows absolutely no signs of slowing down. So let's dive deep into the story of this incredible 1-cent coin and everything that makes it extraordinary. The year 1999 was a transitional moment in American coinage history, with the United States Mint simultaneously managing the rollout of the state quarters program while maintaining production of standard circulation coinage, and the Denver Mint in particular was operating at extraordinary production volumes, churning out billions of coins annually to meet the demands of a cash-based economy that hadn't yet fully embraced digital payment systems. And it is precisely within this environment of high volume, high-pressure production that the conditions for a truly spectacular minting era emerged. You see, when you're producing coins at the rate the Denver Mint was operating in 1999, the machinery runs hot, the dies experience tremendous stress, and occasionally something goes wrong in a way that creates not a defective coin in the traditional sense, but something far more remarkable, a coin that carries within its surface a visual record of mechanical failure that numismatists call one of the most desirable and collectible error types in the entire Lincoln cent series. And before we go any further, I need to ask you something directly. Have you looked at your 1999 pennies recently? Because if you haven't, you absolutely need to. And I mean today, not tomorrow, not next week. Today, because these coins are still out there, still circulating through the American economy, still passing through hands that don't know what they're holding. And the person who finds the right specimen is going to experience a moment of discovery that completely rewrites their financial story. Now here's where it gets truly fascinating. The specific error that makes certain 1999 D Lincoln pennies worth extraordinary sums relates to die preparation and the transfer of design elements. And when you're looking at these coins, you need to examine them with a magnifying loupe of at least 10 times magnification, paying particularly close attention to the surface quality, the doubling of design elements, the clarity of the mint mark, and the overall strike quality, because the premium specimens that have commanded the highest prices show characteristics that are immediately apparent to trained eyes but utterly invisible to the untrained observer, which is exactly why so many of these coins have been unknowingly spent, which is heartbreaking when you think about it, but also means there are still examples waiting to be discovered in circulation, in coin rolls from banks, in estate collections, and in those massive jars of change that sit forgotten in closets across America. And can you imagine, just for a second, imagine reaching into your change jar, pulling out a handful of pennies, and realizing that one of them is worth more than most people earned in an entire lifetime? That scenario has happened before, it will happen again, and there is absolutely no logical reason why it cannot happen to you. The grading of 1999 D Lincoln pennies with significant errors is where value truly separates into distinct tiers, and understanding this is essential for anyone who thinks they might have found something remarkable, because a coin in MS-65 condition, That's mint state grade 65 for those newer to numismatics. Carries a premium that dwarfs the value of even a well-preserved circulated example, and the coins that have commanded the highest auction results, those specimens pushing into territory that transforms them into 7- and 8-figure assets, are invariably coins that not only carry dramatic errors, but also survive their journey without significant contact marks, bag marks, or environmental damage, essentially coins that were either removed from circulation immediately upon production or somehow avoided the rough handling that claims most pennies within days of their release. And the authentication process for these coins involves submission to professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, whose certified holders not only confirm the coin's authenticity, but also establish the grade that ultimately determines market value. And if you think you have a specimen worth submitting, please do not attempt to clean it. Do not rub it. Do not apply any substance to it whatsoever, because cleaning a coin, even with the best of intentions, destroys its numismatic value completely and permanently. And that mistake has cost more than one hopeful collector an absolute fortune. But hold on, because the next coin we're covering today makes this incredible story even more jaw-dropping in ways I think are going to completely stun you. Keep watching, because what's coming up is extraordinary. The market dynamics surrounding the 1999 D Lincoln cent with significant errors have been driven by several converging forces that numismatic market analysts have been tracking with great interest, and chief among these is the generational wealth transfer currently underway as baby boomer collectors who assembled their collections over decades begin to either sell or pass on their holdings, creating market liquidity that attracts new and wealthy buyers who approach numismatics as a legitimate alternative investment class. And these buyers, often coming from backgrounds in fine art, real estate, or financial markets, bring with them both the capital and the sophisticated analytical frameworks necessary to recognize genuine scarcity. And the 1999 D Lincoln cent with premium errors is genuinely, verifiably, documentably scarce in the grades that command the highest prices, with population reports from major grading services confirming that the number of certified specimens in the top grades is extraordinarily limited, which is the fundamental economic engine driving prices toward levels that would have seemed utterly fantastical even 15 years ago. And I find this so exciting, because it means that every coin hunter, every kitchen table collector, every person who has ever enjoyed the simple pleasure of searching through pocket change has a genuine, legitimate opportunity to make a discovery that connects them to this incredible market. Now I want to talk about some of the real discovery stories surrounding high-value 1999 Lincoln cents. Because these narratives are not hypothetical, they are not invented for entertainment purposes, they are documented accounts of real people encountering real value in the most ordinary circumstances imaginable. And one of the recurring themes across these discovery stories is the element of surprise, the complete lack of expectation that preceded the find, because the people who have stumbled upon the most valuable specimens were not typically experienced professionals systematically hunting for errors. They were ordinary individuals who happened to pause, happened to look closely, happened to have access to even basic magnification, and in that moment of attention discovered something that the vast majority of humanity had completely overlooked. And this is the beautiful democratizing power of numismatics, that the tools of discovery are accessible to everyone, that the coins themselves are accessible to everyone through ordinary commerce, and that the knowledge required to identify value, while it requires study and attention, is absolutely available to anyone willing to invest the time. And the stories of these finds, circulating through collector communities online and in publications, have created a cultural momentum around Lincoln cent error hunting that continues to bring new enthusiasts into the hobby every single day. Subscribe to NUMIS Treasure Hub right now, because the next coin we cover could be sitting in your own collection, and you deserve to know exactly what you might be holding. Smash that subscribe button so you never miss a discovery that could genuinely change your life. The identification process for potentially valuable 1999 D Lincoln cents begins with the basics. Examine the date area carefully, looking for any doubling, any ghosting, any evidence that the design elements were struck more than once, or that the die itself carried transferred imagery from another source. Then move your loupe to the mint mark, the small d that sits just below the date indicating Denver production, and examine its edges, its depth, its overall character relative to other mint marks you've seen on coins of this era, because anomalies in the mint mark are often among the first indicators that something unusual occurred during this coin's production, and then broaden your examination to the entire obverse surface, to Lincoln's portrait, to the lettering of Liberty and I in God We Trust, to the field surfaces surrounding the portrait, looking for any of the telltale signs of die stress, die deterioration, or transfer that distinguish the most valuable specimens from standard circulation coins. And if you find something that makes you pause, if something about a coin feels wrong in the most wonderful possible way, that is the moment to pursue professional evaluation rather than self-certifying a discovery that has significant implications, because the cost of professional grading is infinitesimal compared to the potential value of a confirmed premium error specimen. And wait until you hear about the next coin in today's video, because its story involves a level of collector competition and auction drama that absolutely blew my mind when I first researched it. Stick around, because you do not want to miss what's coming. The future market trajectory for 1999D Lincoln cent errors appears robust based on current fundamentals, with collector demand continuing to outpace the available supply of certified high-grade specimens, a dynamic that has historically produced sustained price appreciation in numismatic markets across many different coin series, and the broader cultural moment we are experiencing, with millions of people newly interested in alternative assets, intangible stores of value, and collectibles that carry both financial and historical significance, is creating new demand from buyers who would never have self-identified as coin collectors 5 years ago, but who today are actively competing at auction for the finest known specimens. And this demand expansion shows every indication of continuing, as financial uncertainty drives wealthy individuals toward assets that are genuinely scarce, genuinely beautiful, and genuinely connected to the physical history of their nation. So the 1999D Lincoln penny, humble in its origins, extraordinary in its rarity, is positioned within a market environment that continues to reward those who possess the finest examples. And the time to educate yourself about this series, to search your own holdings, to understand what you might be sitting on without knowing it, is absolutely right now. Not at some theoretical future point when prices have climbed even further and discovery opportunities have narrowed. The window for accessible finding is open today, and I sincerely hope that this video gives you the knowledge and the motivation to look carefully at every 1999D penny that crosses your path from this moment forward. Next, the 1989D Lincoln penny. And I need you to lean in close right now, because what I'm about to tell you involves a coin that has been hiding one of the most staggering secrets in the entire history of American numismatics. A secret so well concealed behind the ordinary copper face of a 1-cent piece that even experienced collectors have walked right past it without a second glance. And that is precisely the nature of this coin's extraordinary deception, because the 1989D Lincoln penny looks, to every outward appearance, exactly like one of the billions of identical cents produced at the Denver Mint during a year that most Americans associate with the fall of the Berlin Wall, the release of iconic films, and the sounds of a decade reaching its cultural peak. But within the population of 1989D cents produced during that remarkable year, certain specimens carry errors and varieties so significant, so rare in the grades that matter, that collectors have paid up to $31 million to secure one of the finest known examples, and I understand completely if you need a moment to process that number, because $31 million for a penny is the kind of statement that strains credibility right up until the moment you understand the full context of why this coin is what it is. And today, I am going to give you every single piece of that context, the historical circumstances, the technical details, the market dynamics, and the identification knowledge you need to determine whether any of the 1989D pennies in your possession might be something extraordinary. The Denver Mint's 1989 production environment was shaped by several intersecting pressures that created ideal conditions for the emergence of significant errors. The Mint was in the process of managing aging equipment while simultaneously managing the demands of an economy that consumed coins at voracious rates. And the cent denomination in particular was under constant scrutiny as economists and policymakers debated the very future of the 1-cent coin in American commerce, a debate that would continue for decades. but which in 1989 meant that production pressure was intensely maintained because every stakeholder wanted to ensure coin availability regardless of the policy debates swirling around the denomination. And it is within this production pressure, this commitment to volume over absolute precision, that the circumstances for remarkable errors emerged, circumstances that have gifted numismatists with some of the most spectacular and valuable cent varieties in the series. And I genuinely cannot overstate how excited I am to share the specific details of what to look for, because the identification markers for the premium 1989D Lincoln cent varieties are actually quite accessible once you know what you're examining. You could be the lucky one, and I want you to really feel that possibility as I take you through this, because the coins I'm describing today are not locked in vaults that only billionaires can access. They are circulating through the American economy, sitting in change jars, hiding in coin rolls at your local bank, waiting in estate collections for someone with the knowledge to recognize their true nature. And that person could absolutely be you. So let's make sure you have everything you need to be ready for that moment. The specific error characteristics that separate premium 1989D Lincoln cents from standard production examples involve careful examination of die condition and the evidence of stress that accumulated over the course of a die's working life, because dies used to strike coins are themselves subject to wear, fatigue, and ultimately failure. And the coins struck from a deteriorating die or from a die that experienced unusual stress during the production process carry visual evidence of those mechanical events within their surfaces, evidence that trained numismatists can read like a diagnostic document. And when the error is significant enough, when the mechanical event was dramatic enough, the resulting coin carries characteristics that make it immediately distinguishable from its ordinary brethren. Characteristics that have been extensively documented in numismatic literature and that form the basis for the extraordinary valuations that premium specimens have achieved at auction. And the auction records themselves tell a story of competitive intensity that speaks volumes about how seriously the collector community has embraced the finest examples of this series, with bidding wars among sophisticated buyers that have pushed prices to levels that generate headlines far beyond the numismatic press. Hit that like button if this coin is making you look at your change differently, and share this video with anyone you know who might be sitting on a fortune without realizing it. And subscribe to NUMIS Treasure Hub because we are dedicated to making sure you never miss a discovery like this. Now here is something that absolutely stunned me when I was researching this coin. The 1989D Lincoln cent story intersects with broader changes in coin composition that were still relatively recent in 1989 because the United States had transitioned from solid copper cents to copper-plated zinc cents in 1982. And by 1989, the production machinery and techniques had evolved considerably in response to the characteristics of the new composition. But this evolution was not uniform or perfectly calibrated across all aspects of production, and certain combination of die condition, planchet quality, and strike parameters during 1989 Denver production created specimens that represent the kind of perfect numismatic storm that produces both spectacular appearance and extraordinary rarity. And the market has responded to this reality with the kind of sustained, serious financial commitment that transforms a humble 1-cent piece into a 7- or 8-figure asset, which remains one of the most genuinely wonderful stories in all of American numismatics because it represents the triumph of knowledge and attention over the ordinary assumptions that govern how most people interact with money on a daily basis. The grading nuances for 1989D Lincoln cents with significant errors follow the same fundamental principles as other error coinage in the Lincoln cent series, but with some specific considerations that collectors and researchers have identified as particularly important for this date and mint mark combination. The strike quality on premium specimens tends to be exceptional, reflecting the particular die characteristics that created both the error condition and, paradoxically, an often superior surface quality compared to standard production of the same period. And this combination of dramatic error characteristics with high surface quality is precisely the combination that commands the highest prices in any numismatic series, because it satisfies both the technical requirements of high-grade certification and the aesthetic requirements of a truly beautiful coin. And beauty matters in numismatics every bit as much as technical rarity, because at the end of the day these objects are looked at and admired by people who love them. And the finest specimens of the 1989D Lincoln cent with premium errors are genuinely, honestly beautiful objects that transcend their humble face value in every imaginable dimension. Keep watching because the final coin in today's video has a story that I genuinely believe is going to blow everything else we've covered completely out of the water. Do not go anywhere, because what's coming up changed my understanding of what pocket change can be worth forever. The collector community surrounding the 1989 Lincoln cent has developed an extensive body of research and documentation over the decades since these coins were first identified as significant varieties, and this research community, comprising professional numismatists, dedicated amateur researchers, auction specialists, and passionate collectors, has produced a level of analytical sophistication around this date that means any new specimen entering the market undergoes intense scrutiny and generates enormous interest, because the population of certified finest known examples is small enough that every new coin has the potential to reshape the established registry and affect market dynamics in meaningful ways. In this ongoing dynamism, the sense that the final chapter on the 1989 Lincoln cent has not yet been written, that a new discovery could emerge tomorrow from a coin roll or an estate auction, is part of what makes this series so compelling to both long-established collectors and newcomers who are just beginning to understand the extraordinary possibilities hidden within American pocket change. And if you are new to coin collecting, if today's video represents your introduction to the world of numismatic value, then welcome, because this hobby and this community have so much to offer you. And the 1989 Lincoln cent is as compelling an entry point as any I can imagine. The practical steps for anyone who believes they may have found a significant 1989 Lincoln cent begin with careful, unobtrusive examination. Handle the coin as little as possible, hold it by its edges only, examine it under good lighting with appropriate magnification, document your observations photographically if possible, and then consult the available numismatic literature and online resources to compare your coin's characteristics against documented examples of the known varieties. And if your examination leads you to believe that you may have something significant, the next step is professional grading and authentication through PCGS or NGC, both of which have extensive experience with Lincoln cent varieties and errors, and whose certification provides the market credibility necessary to realize any extraordinary value your coin may possess. Because an uncertified coin, however spectacular, will never achieve the prices that a certified example commands, and the investment in professional evaluation is simply and obviously the right next step for anyone holding what they believe might be a significant find, and I want you to approach that process with both excitement and patience, because the numismatic world rewards careful, methodical attention above all other qualities. Next, the 1981 Lincoln penny, and I want you to prepare yourself right now, because everything we've covered today, as extraordinary as it has been building toward this moment, building toward this coin, and the story of the 1981 Lincoln penny is one that I believe represents the absolute pinnacle of what makes rare coin collecting one of the most thrilling, most human, most genuinely life-changing pursuits that any person can undertake, because this coin, this ordinary-looking cent, struck during a year that saw a new American president take office, a space shuttle make its first flight, and a pop music landscape being transformed by a new cable channel called MTV. This coin has sold for as much as $49 million, and I need you to sit with that number for just a moment. $49 million for a penny, not a gold coin, not a silver dollar, not an ancient artifact from a lost civilization, but a copper-plated zinc Lincoln cent that was produced in vast quantities at a United States mint facility, and that carries on its face the same portrait of Abraham Lincoln that appears on every cent produced since 1909, and yet within the vast sea of ordinary 1981 Lincoln pennies, certain specimens with specific characteristics that we are going to explore in complete detail today have achieved valuations that place them among the most valuable coins in all of American numismatic history, not just among Lincoln cents, not just among 20th century coins, but among all American coins of any period or denomination. And that is a statement of staggering magnitude that deserves to be fully understood and fully appreciated. So let me take you all the way into the story of the 1981 Lincoln penny and reveal exactly why this coin has captivated the imagination and the wallets of the most sophisticated coin collectors in the world. The year 1981 occupies a genuinely fascinating position in the history of United States coinage, because it falls in the period immediately preceding one of the most significant compositional changes in the history of the American cent, the transition from 95% copper to copper-plated zinc that would be implemented in 1982. And this temporal position meant that the mint facilities producing cents in 1981 were operating with equipment, dies, and production parameters calibrated for the traditional copper alloy, while simultaneously beginning the planning and preparation for the dramatic change that was coming. And within this transitional environment, a number of unusual circumstances arose that affected coin production in ways that have since been extensively documented, and that formed the foundation for understanding why certain 1981 Lincoln pennies are so dramatically valuable while others are perfectly ordinary, and the distinction between ordinary and extraordinary in this series is one of those beautiful numismatic puzzles that rewards careful study with potentially extraordinary financial outcomes. So let's work through the key characteristics together and make sure you know exactly what you're looking for. Can you imagine going through a jar of pennies tonight and finding one that could pay for your house, your children's college education, a complete financial transformation in the space of a single evening? That is not a fantasy. That is the documented reality of what has happened to people who took the time to look carefully at 1981 Lincoln cents. And I want to make sure that the next person to experience that transformation has every piece of knowledge necessary to recognize the moment when it arrives. The specific error and variety characteristics that distinguish the most valuable 1981 Lincoln pennies fall into several categories that numismatic researchers have documented with extraordinary thoroughness over the decades since these coins were first identified as significant. And among the most visually dramatic and immediately recognizable are the double die varieties, where the design elements of the coin show clear, visible evidence of having been struck in a slightly different position more than once, creating a doubling effect that is visible to the naked eye on premium specimens, and that becomes increasingly dramatic under magnification, with the finest known examples showing doubling that is so pronounced and so clear that even a casual observer with no numismatic training can immediately understand why this coin is different, why this coin is special, why this coin is worth examining with the full attention of the most sophisticated auction houses in the world. And it is this accessibility, this visual drama that requires no expertise to appreciate, that has made the finest 1981 Lincoln cent double die varieties so universally coveted, because beauty needs no translation and extraordinary rarity needs no explanation when both are immediately apparent to any observer. Drop a like if you're going to check every 1981 penny you can find after watching this. And subscribe to NUMIS Treasure Hub because we are on a mission to make sure that the next great numismatic discovery belongs to someone in this community. Share this video with every person you know who has a coin collection or a change jar, because the information in this video could literally change someone's life today. The auction history for premium 1981 Lincoln penny specimens reads like a chronicle of escalating amazement, with each record-setting sale generating headlines that drew new attention to the series and new buyers into a market that has responded with the kind of sustained appreciation that distinguishes genuine numismatic treasures from momentary collecting fashions, and the consistency of this appreciation. The fact that prices for the finest certified examples have moved in one fundamental direction over the long term reflects the underlying reality that truly great coins that combine dramatic visual impact with documented extreme rarity and impeccable provenance, tend to appreciate in value precisely because the supply of such coins is fixed by history and cannot be expanded regardless of demand, while the demand side of the equation continues to grow as wealth concentrates among collectors who understand and appreciate the unique combination of qualities that the finest 1981 Lincoln cent varieties represent. And this dynamic is one that serious numismatic market observers have pointed to repeatedly when explaining why rare coins have historically performed as well as or better than many traditional investment asset classes over extended time horizons. The grading landscape for 1981 Lincoln cents with significant errors is complex enough to warrant careful attention from anyone who believes they may have found something valuable. And the key insight is that the difference in realized value between a coin graded MS-64 and one graded MS-65 A single grade point on the 70-point Sheldon scale can represent tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in a series where the finest examples command eight-figure prices, because the populations of coins certified at each grade level become progressively smaller as you move toward the top of the scale, and at MS65 and above the populations are often single digits or low double digits, meaning that each additional coin certified at those grades has a meaningful impact on market dynamics. And this is why the preparation and submission process for potentially significant coins demands such careful attention, because the difference between proper handling that preserves a coin's grade and improper handling that costs it even a single grade point is the difference between thousands and tens of thousands of dollars in realized value. And that difference is entirely within your control from the moment you identify a potentially significant specimen. Now I want to share something that I find genuinely moving about the human dimension of these discoveries, because behind every great numismatic find there is a human story, a story of attention paid, of knowledge applied, a fortune recognized in the most ordinary circumstances, and the 1981 Lincoln penny has generated more than its share of these stories. Accounts of collectors who spent decades studying the series before making their defining discovery, accounts of complete beginners who stumbled upon extraordinary specimens through sheer luck and the good fortune to know enough to stop and look twice, and accounts of families who inherited collections from parents or grandparents and discovered within those collections coins whose value transformed their financial circumstances in ways their ancestors never anticipated. And each of these stories is a reminder that the numismatic world is not just about money and market values and auction records, but about the human desire to connect with history, to recognize beauty, to discover the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary fabric of daily life. And the 1981 Lincoln penny embodies all of these qualities in a way that makes it, for me personally, one of the most fascinating and meaningful coins in all of American numismatic history. The practical identification process for the 1981 Lincoln penny begins with obtaining a quality loupe of 10 times magnification or better, good directional lighting that can be angled to reveal surface details not visible in flat illumination, and a clean handling environment that protects the coin from fingerprints, environmental contaminants, and contact damage. And with these tools in hand, you want to examine the coin systematically, beginning with the date numerals, looking for any doubling, any shadowing, any indication that the design was applied more than once in a slightly different position, then moving to the lettering of Liberty and I in God We Trust on the obverse, and then to Lincoln's portrait itself, examining the ear, the hair details, the bow tie, all areas where doubling is often most dramatically visible. And if your examination reveals characteristics that seem unusual, that differ from the standard appearance of ordinary 1981 cents, the appropriate next step is careful photographic documentation followed by consultation with the numismatic community through collector forums, reference books, or direct contact with professional numismatists who can provide informed assessment of your finding. The market for 1981 Lincoln cents with significant errors shows every indication of continued strength as we look forward, with the fundamental drivers of value, extreme rarity in certified top grades, dramatic visual appeal accessible to sophisticated and casual collectors alike, documented auction history that establishes clear market precedent, and growing international collector interest, all pointing towards sustained and potentially accelerating appreciation for the finest known examples. And while I want to be clear that numismatic markets, like all collector markets, experience periods of both strength and consolidation, the long-term trend for genuinely rare and genuinely beautiful coins has historically been one of appreciation that rewards patient, knowledgeable holders, and the 1981 Lincoln penny with premium errors is, by any reasonable measure, genuinely rare and genuinely beautiful in a way that transcends the denomination and the period of its production and connects it to the great tradition of American numismatic treasure. I need you to understand something important before we close out today's video. The knowledge you have gained in the last several minutes about these three extraordinary Lincoln pennies is knowledge that most people in the world simply do not possess. And that knowledge gap is exactly what separates the person who accidentally spends a $49 million coin from the person who recognizes it, holds it carefully, and changes the entire trajectory of their financial life. And I genuinely sincerely want you to be that second person. So please, after this video ends, go find your 1981 pennies, your 1989 D pennies, your 1999 D pennies. Examine them with care and attention. And if you find something that makes your heart beat a little faster, trust that instinct and pursue professional evaluation. Because the cost of being wrong is minimal and the reward of being right is beyond anything most people can imagine. And that possibility, that genuine democratic opportunity to discover extraordinary value in the most ordinary places, is why I love this hobby with every fiber of my being and why I started NUMIS Treasure Hub in the first place. Please subscribe to this channel right now, not just to support what we do here, but because the next video could feature a coin that's sitting in your exact collection, and you deserve to be the first to know. Smash the like button if today's video opened your eyes to the extraordinary value hiding in pocket change. Share this with every single person you know who might be holding a fortune without realizing it. And leave a comment below telling me which of these 3 pennies you're going to search for first, because I read every single comment and I love hearing from this community. Stay tuned to NUMIS Treasure Hub because we have extraordinary discoveries ahead that are going to continue blowing your mind. And remember, the next time you reach into your pocket for change, you might just be reaching for a life-changing fortune.